A lonely millionaire CEO finds twin girls abandoned in the rain on the gas station. But when he saw their bruises, his own childhood memories made him tremble. Rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Bennett's corner office. His hand trembled as he loosened his tie, staring at the city lights blurred by water streaming down the glass. The clock on his desk read 11:42 p.m. "Mr. Bennett?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board's preliminary report just came in." Marcus pressed the button. "Send it through, Jenny." His voice was steady, practiced from years of maintaining control. The printer hummed to life. Marcus grabbed the papers, scanning the first page. His jaw tightened. The words "vote of no confidence" jumped out at him, followed by concerns about recent leadership decisions and possible restructuring necessary. Thunder crashed outside. Marcus flinched, dropping the report. Papers scattered across the polished floor. His breathing quickened as he bent to gather them, designer suit creasing at the knees. His phone buzzed. Another message from the board. Marcus ignored it, focusing on steadying his hands. The rain intensified, drumming against the windows like thousands of tiny fists. Just like that night 5 years ago. "No," he muttered, pressing his palms against his temples. "Not now." The memory came anyway. Sarah's last text. "On my way home. Love you." The police officer's voice 2 hours later. "Mr. Bennett, there's been an accident. The roads were slick." His chest tightened. The familiar pressure built behind his ribs as the panic attack took hold. Marcus stumbled to his private bathroom, gripping the marble counter. The face in the mirror was unfamiliar. A successful CEO replaced by a terrified boy from the projects who still couldn't believe he belonged here. "Get it together," he growled at his reflection. "You're Marcus Bennett. You built this company from nothing. You survived worse than this." The panic slowly receded, leaving him drained. He splashed water on his face, carefully avoiding the tears mixing with the tap water. His phone buzzed again. This time, he checked it. "Emergency board meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. Attendance mandatory." Richard Whitmore, chairman. Marcus's fingers clenched around the phone. Whitmore, the old money chairman who'd never missed a chance to remind Marcus that he didn't fit their world. Who'd questioned every decision, undermined every initiative. "Fine," Marcus muttered, grabbing his briefcase. "Let them try." The private elevator hummed as it carried him down 60 floors. Empty halls echoed his footsteps. Security nodded as he passed, used to his late exits. Outside, rain drenched him in seconds despite the umbrella. His Mercedes purred to life. The leather seats still smelled new, but tonight the luxury felt hollow. Traffic lights reflected off wet pavement as he navigated through nearly empty streets. The gas gauge blinked. Marcus swore softly. He'd meant to fill up this morning, but the hostile takeover rumors had disrupted his routine. A gas station's neon signs glowed ahead through the downpour. Marcus pulled in, noticing only one other car, an employee's probably. The station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows. He got out, swiping his card at the pump. That's when he saw them. 2 small figures huddled against the station wall, partially hidden behind a trash can. His first thought was homeless kids, but something seemed off. They were too well-dressed despite being soaked. And they were identical, twin girls, maybe 7 or 8 years old. The nozzle clicked. Marcus replaced it, receipts forgotten. The girls hadn't moved. Their matching braids dripped water onto their shoulders. They weren't just wet, they were shivering. "Hey," Marcus called softly. "Are you two all right?" They pressed closer together. One girl, or maybe both, whimpered. Marcus took a step closer, movements slow and deliberate. Their clothes were good quality but soaked through. Private school uniforms, he realized. "Where are your parents?" No response. Just wide, frightened eyes tracking his every move. Marcus pulled out his phone, fingers hovering over 911. The girls flinched at the movement. That's when he saw the bruises. Dark marks peeking out from under rolled-up sleeves. Fresh ones layered over old. Marcus knew those marks. He'd worn similar ones in foster homes he still tried to forget. His hands started shaking again, but not from panic this time. From rage. Pure, burning rage at whoever had hurt these children. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, keeping his voice gentle despite the anger churning in his gut. "I want to help. Are you hungry? There's a diner just down the street that's open all night." The girls exchanged glances. One nodded slightly. Progress. I'm Marcus, he continued. What are your names? Silence stretched. Rain drummed on the metal awning. Finally, the slightly taller girl whispered something. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again? Sophia, she said, barely audible. This is Sarah. Marcus's breath caught. Sarah. Of course her name would be Sarah. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. His phone buzzed again. Probably another board message. Marcus ignored it. He had more important things to deal with right now than hostile takeovers and prejudiced board members. Sophia and Sarah, he repeated. Beautiful names. Listen, I know you're scared. I know you probably don't trust me. But it's cold, and you're soaking wet, and I want to help. Will you let me? More silent communication between the twins. Finally, Sophia spoke again. You promise you won't hurt us? I promise. Marcus held out his hands, palms up. I know what it's like to be scared and alone. I was a foster kid too. Their eyes widened. Sarah, the one who hadn't spoken, took a tiny step forward. How did you know? The bruises, Marcus said simply. I had them too. Once. Different homes, different foster parents, same story. Thunder boomed overhead. Both girls jumped. Marcus made a decision. My car's right there. He pointed to the Mercedes. The back seat's warm and dry. We can figure out what to do next. But first, let's get you out of this rain. Okay. Sophia grabbed Sarah's hand. They whispered to each other, too quiet for Marcus to hear. Finally, they nodded. Okay, Sophia said. But we stay together. Always, Marcus promised. Come on. He opened the back door, watching as they climbed in together, still holding hands. Their wet clothes soaked into the leather seats. Marcus couldn't care less. His phone buzzed yet again. Jenny's name flashed on the screen. The takeover situation must be escalating. Tomorrow's meeting could determine the fate of his company, his legacy, everything he'd built. Marcus looked at the twins in his rearview mirror, huddled together like frightened birds. Some things were more important than business empires. He started the car, cranking up the heat. Let's get you two warm and dry. Then we'll figure out the rest. The girls said nothing, but their grip on each other's hands loosened slightly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Marcus pulled out of the gas station, leaving bright puddles of light behind. Ahead, the rain continued to fall. But for the first time in years, it didn't remind him of Sarah's death. Instead, it reminded him of beginning. Marcus pulled into the diner's empty parking lot. Neon signs buzzed overhead, casting red and blue reflections on the wet pavement. The twins hadn't spoken since leaving the gas station. Hungry? He asked, meeting their eyes in the rearview mirror. They nodded slightly, still clutching each other's hands. The diner's bell jingled as they entered. An elderly waitress looked up from wiping down the counter, her eyes widening at the sight of Marcus in his expensive suit accompanied by two soaking wet children. 3 menus. Betty, Marcus said, reading her name tag. And towels, if you have any. Corner booth, Betty said, grabbing clean dish towels from behind the counter. She'd clearly seen enough late-night stories not to ask questions. The girls slid into the booth together, their wet shoes squeaking against the vinyl seats. Marcus sat opposite them, pulling out his phone. Child services first, he muttered, searching for the number. The call went straight to voicemail. Emergency after-hours line, same result. They won't help, Sarah whispered, the first word she'd spoken since the gas station. They never do. Marcus lowered his phone. What do you mean? Sophia answered instead, her voice barely audible. They just send us back. Or somewhere worse. Betty approached with menus and towels. Marcus helped the girls dry their hair, noting how they flinched at first contact. More bruises peeked out from under their collars. Hot chocolate for these two, Marcus told Betty. And coffee. Black. For me. Food too, Betty said firmly. These kids need more than hot chocolate. Marcus nodded. Whatever they want. The girls studied the menus intensely, whispering to each other. Finally, Sophia spoke up. Can we share pancakes? You can each have your own, Marcus said. And eggs, bacon, whatever you like. Their eyes widened. Sarah shook her head slightly. That's too much money. Marcus's chest tightened. He remembered that feeling, watching foster parents order full meals for their biological children while he got plain toast or cereal. I have plenty of money, he said gently. Order whatever you want. They eventually ordered pancakes, eggs, and bacon, still sharing one plate despite his insistence. Marcus's phone buzzed continuously as they waited for the food. He silenced it without looking. "Which home are you from?" he asked carefully, wrapping his hands around the coffee mug Betty brought. The girls exchanged glances. Sophia spoke first. "The Petersons. In Riverdale." Marcus's jaw clenched. He knew that neighborhood, old money, perfect lawns, hidden secrets. "How long?" 2 months, Sarah said. "They seemed nice at first." "They always do," Marcus said. His hands started shaking again. He set down the coffee mug before they noticed. The food arrived, a mountain of pancakes drowned in syrup. The girls ate carefully at first, then faster as they realized no one would take the food away. "Mr. Peterson drinks," Sophia said suddenly, between bites. "When he drinks, he gets mad. At everything," Sarah added. "But mostly at us. Says we're ungrateful." Marcus's phone vibrated again. Jenny's text flashed. "Board members calling emergency session. Hostile takeover imminent." "Where are you?" He typed back quickly. "Handling family emergency." "Hold them off." "Family." Jenny replied instantly. "What family?" Marcus looked at the twins, now scraping the last bits of syrup from their plate. Good question. What was he doing? He had a company to save, a legacy to protect. He couldn't get involved in this mess. Then Sarah rolled up her sleeve to wipe her mouth, and he saw it, a perfect handprint bruise on her forearm, just like the ones he used to hide under long sleeves in summer. His chest tightened, the diner's fluorescent lights flickered, and suddenly he was 12 again, sitting in a different diner with a busted lip, telling a cop he'd fallen down the stairs. "Mr. Marcus." Sophia's voice snapped him back. "Are you okay?" He realized he was gripping the table edge too hard. "Yes, just remembering something. Bad memories?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus nodded. "From when I was in foster care. Different house, same story. But you got out," Sophia said. "It wasn't a question. I did. Worked hard in school. Got scholarships. Built my own company. The Petersons say we're stupid," Sarah whispered. "That we'll never amount to anything." Marcus's phone buzzed again. He ignored it. "They're wrong. Want to know how I know?" Both girls nodded. "Because my foster parents said the same thing. Now I run a billion-dollar company." Their eyes widened. Sophia glanced at his suit, his watch, finally understanding what they meant. "Is that why you have a fancy car?" Sarah asked. Marcus smiled slightly. "Yes. But you know what? It doesn't make me happy." "Not really? What does?" Sophia asked. Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. Not a text this time. Richard Whitmore's name flashed on the screen. "I need to take this," he said, standing. "Betty will get you more hot chocolate if you want." He stepped outside into the rain, answering on the last ring. "Whitmore, where the hell are you?" "Bennett." Whitmore's voice dripped with contempt. "The Asian markets are opening. We're hemorrhaging value. I'm handling a personal matter." "Personal matter?" Whitmore scoffed. "Your job is to handle this company, or what's left of it after your recent decisions." Marcus watched through the window as Betty brought the girls more hot chocolate, complete with whipped cream towers. They smiled for the first time since he'd found them. "My job," Marcus said slowly, "is to do what's right. We'll discuss this tomorrow." Tomorrow may be too late. The board's confidence is already shaken. One more mistake. Marcus hung up. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but thunder still rumbled in the distance. Back inside, the girls had finished their hot chocolate, leaving matching whipped cream mustaches. Marcus paid the bill, leaving Betty a tip bigger than the meal itself. "What now?" Sophia asked as they walked back to the car. "Good question." Marcus pulled out his phone again, trying the emergency services numbers one more time. Still nothing. "The police station," he decided. "They'll know what to do." The girls froze. "No," Sarah said. "Please. They'll send us back. Or separate us," Sophia added, gripping her sister's hand tighter. Marcus knelt down to their level, rain soaking through his pants. "Listen to me. I won't let anyone separate you. I won't let anyone hurt you again. But we need to do this properly, legally." "Okay." They looked at each other, having one of their silent conversations. Finally, they nodded. "Promise we'll stay together?" Sarah asked. "Promise," Marcus said. As they drove toward the police station, his phone kept buzzing. The company he'd spent 15 years building might not survive until morning. The board was probably already drafting his dismissal. He looked in the rearview mirror. The girls had fallen asleep, still holding hands, heads leaning together. They looked peaceful for the first time since he'd found them. Marcus thought about his empty penthouse apartment, filled with expensive furniture and nothing else. About Sarah, his Sarah, who'd always wanted children before the accident took her. His phone buzzed again. He turned it off completely. Some things were worth losing everything for. The police station's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Marcus led the twins through sliding glass doors. An officer looked up from the front desk, eyes moving from Marcus's expensive suit to the girl's wet clothes. "Can I help you?" the officer asked, hand instinctively moving toward his radio. "Found these two at a gas station," Marcus said. "They're from a foster home. The Petersons, in Riverdale." The officer's posture relaxed slightly. He typed something into his computer. "Names? Sophia and Sarah," Marcus said. The girls pressed closer to his legs. More typing. The officer's expression changed. "Wait here." He disappeared through a door marked, "Staff Only." Marcus guided the girls to plastic chairs along the wall. Their shoes didn't quite touch the floor. "Are they going to send us back?" Sarah whispered. Before Marcus could answer, a woman in a blazer emerged from the same door. Her badge read, "Detective Martinez." "Mr.?" she asked. "Bennett." "Marcus Bennett." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "The CEO." Marcus nodded. "Could you come with me? Officer Chen will stay with the girls." Sophia grabbed Marcus's sleeve. "Don't leave us." 5 minutes, he promised. "I'll be right back." Detective Martinez led him to a small room with a two-way mirror. She closed the door. "Those girls have been in 6 different foster homes in the past year," she said without preamble. "They were placed with the Petersons 2 months ago. Supposed to be one of our better homes." Marcus's hands clenched. "Check their arms, their backs too, probably." Martinez studied him. "You saw bruises." "I recognize the signs. I was in the system too." She nodded, making notes. "We'll need pictures, medical examination. But first, tell me exactly what happened tonight." Marcus described finding them at the gas station. As he spoke, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. "The gas station," Martinez said. "It'll have security cameras. We'll need that footage. I'll have my lawyer get it first thing." Marcus stopped as his phone buzzed again. He pulled it out reflexively. Jenny had texted, "Board members arriving early. Whitmore leading vote of no confidence. Need you here now." Marcus turned the phone off completely. "Mr. Bennett?" Martinez was watching him. "Everything okay?" "Fine. About the girls. Protocol says we contact their caseworker, return them to their assigned home pending investigation." "No." Marcus stood up. "You're not sending them back there." "Mr. Bennett, there are procedures." "Procedures?" His voice rose. "I had procedures too. 7 homes in 4 years. Know what procedures got me? Broken ribs. Cigarette burns. Teachers who looked the other way." Martinez's expression softened. "Times have changed. Have they?" Marcus pulled out his phone, pulled up the camera, and turned it on. "Let's go ask the girls." Back in the waiting room, Sophia and Sarah sat exactly where they'd left them, shoulders touching, hands linked. "Girls," Marcus said gently, kneeling in front of them. "The detective needs to know what happened. Can you tell her?" Sarah shook her head, but Sophia spoke quietly. "Mr. Peterson gets mad when he drinks." "What does he do when he's mad?" Martinez asked, voice professional but kind. "Shows us his belt first," Sophia whispered. "Says it's coming if we don't behave." Marcus's chest tightened. His own memories threatened to surface. Different belt, different house, same terror. "Then he uses it," Martinez prompted. Sarah nodded. "Or his hands. Depends how mad." "Mrs. Peterson. She watches TV with headphones," Sophia said. "Says she doesn't want to hear the noise." Marcus's hands started shaking. He'd known foster mothers like that, the ones who chose deliberate ignorance over responsibility. "When did you run away?" Martinez asked. "Today after school," Sarah said. "He was already drinking when we got home. Said we'd stolen food." "Did you?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Just an apple each. We were hungry. They locked the kitchen at night." Marcus stood abruptly, walking to the water cooler. He needed a moment to control his rage before he could trust himself to speak. They'll need medical documentation, Martinez said quietly, joining him. Photos of the bruises, doctor's report. I'll call my private physician, Marcus said. His discreet, thorough. Martinez raised an eyebrow. You're very invested in this case, Mr. Bennett. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again. He'd forgotten to turn it back off. The screen showed 10 missed calls and twice as many texts. The latest was from Jenny. They are voting in an hour. Last chance. Marcus looked at the twins. They were whispering to each other again. That secret language of shared trauma he remembered all too well. I'm not sending them back there, he said. Find another option. There might be one, Martinez said slowly. But it's complicated. I'm listening. Emergency foster placement. Temporary custody while we investigate. But it would need to be someone with resources, stability, who could pass a quick background check. She left the sentence hanging. Marcus caught her meaning. Me? His voice cracked slightly. I run a major corporation. I work 80-hour weeks. I'm single. I live alone. You also understand what they've been through. And clearly, you care. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Final warning from Jenny. Board assembling now. He looked at the twins again. They'd fallen asleep in the uncomfortable chairs, heads leaning together, still holding hands. A memory hit him, being 10 years old, listening to his own sister cry in another room, promising himself that someday he'd protect kids like them. He'd gotten so caught up in building his empire, he'd forgotten that promise. What would I need to do? He asked quietly. Martinez pulled out forms. Initial emergency placement is temporary, a few days while we investigate. After that, if you're interested in something more permanent. One step at a time, Marcus said, but his hands were steady as he reached for the papers. The twin stirred as he sat down to fill out forms. What's happening? Sophia asked sleepily. How would you like to stay with me for a while? Marcus asked. Just until things get sorted out. Their eyes widened. Sarah spoke first. Together. Together, Marcus promised. I have a spare room, plenty of space. What about Mr. Peterson? Sophia whispered. He'll never hurt you again, Marcus said. Either of you? His phone buzzed one final time. Screen message. Board vote beginning. Your absence noted as effective resignation. Marcus turned the phone off without replying. Some choices made themselves. There will be questions, Martinez warned quietly. Background checks, home inspections. The media will notice. Let them, Marcus said, signing the last form. I stopped hiding from bullies a long time ago. The twins were watching him, hope warring with caution in their expressions. He remembered that look, wanting to believe in safety but scared to trust it. Ready to go home? He asked them. They nodded together. As they walked to his car, their hands found his, small fingers gripping tight. The rain had stopped. Dawn was breaking over the city, painting the wet streets gold. Marcus's phone stayed silent in his pocket, his empire potentially crumbling. He couldn't bring himself to care. For the first time in years, he was keeping a promise that actually mattered. Marcus's penthouse felt different as he unlocked the door, twin girls trailing behind him. The spacious living room with its modern furniture and city views suddenly seemed cold, uninviting. This is where you live, Sophia whispered, looking at the floor-to-ceiling windows. It's so big, Sarah added, gripping her sister's hand tighter. Marcus flicked on lights, watching their reflections in the windows. Their wet clothes had mostly dried, but they still shivered. Let me find you something to wear, he said, heading to his bedroom. He returned with 2 of his smallest t-shirts. They'd be like dresses on the girls, but they were clean and dry. Bathrooms through there, he pointed. Take a hot shower if you want. I'll make some calls. The girls disappeared into the bathroom together. The shower started running. Marcus pulled out his phone and turned it on. Immediately, it exploded with notifications. 57 missed calls. 83 text messages. 26 voicemails. The first voicemail played. Marcus, it's Richard Whitmore. Your absence from this morning's emergency session has been noted. The board is preparing to vote. Delete. Next message. Mr. Bennett, this is Jerry from legal. The hostile takeover bid has escalated. Without your presence too. Delete. Third message. Boss, where are you? They are saying you've abandoned the company. Whitmore's calling for immediate leadership change. Please call. Marcus deleted the rest without listening. He opened his laptop instead, typing quickly. To the board of directors, Bennett Investments. I am handling an urgent family matter. Any votes taken in my absence are premature and will be challenged. My legal team will be in touch. Marcus Bennett, CEO of Send. The bathroom door opened. The girls emerged wearing his t-shirts, which hung past their knees. Their wet clothes were bundled in their arms. Give those here, Marcus said. I'll put them in the dryer. As he took the clothes, his fingers brushed fresh bruises on Sarah's arm. His jaw clenched. Are you hungry? He asked, forcing his voice to stay calm. They shook their heads, but their eyes darted toward the kitchen. It's okay to be hungry, Marcus said. The kitchen's never locked here. He opened the fridge, realizing it was nearly empty. He rarely ate at home. How about we order something? He suggested. Pizza. Their eyes lit up, but Sophia bit her lip. That's expensive. I can afford it, Marcus said gently. Any toppings you want. Before they could answer, his phone rang. Jenny's name flashed on the screen. I have to take this, he said. Look at the menu on the fridge. Choose whatever you like. He stepped onto the balcony, closing the glass door. Jenny. Marcus. Thank God. His assistant's voice was frantic. Where are you? The board's voting in 10 minutes. Whitmore's gathered enough support to. I'm not coming in. Silence. Then, what? Something more important came up. More important. Jenny's voice rose. Marcus, they are voting to remove you as CEO. The company you built will survive without me for one day. That's just it. It might not be just one day. Whitmore's pushing for permanent removal. The Asian markets are in free fall. European trading opens in hours. We need. A scream from inside cut her off. Marcus dropped the phone, rushing back inside. The twins stood frozen in the kitchen. A glass of water lay shattered on the floor. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered, trembling. I didn't mean to. It slipped, Sophia added quickly. We'll clean it up. Please don't. Marcus crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, lifting both girls away from the broken glass. Are you hurt? They shook their heads, still tense. It's just a glass, he said softly. Accidents happen. No one's angry. Sarah started crying. Sophia wrapped an arm around her sister. Mr. Peterson breaks things when he's mad, she explained quietly. Makes us clean it up. Sometimes we cut our hands. Marcus's chest tightened. He remembered similar lessons. Cleaning up broken dishes with bare hands, blood mixing with soap water. No one will hurt you here, he said firmly. Ever. Now, how about that pizza? A knock at the door made them all jump. Marcus checked the security camera feed on his phone. Detective Martinez stood in the hallway with another woman. Girls, wait in the living room, he said. Stay where I can see you. He opened the door. Martinez nodded at him. Mr. Bennett, this is Clara Wilson, the twins' case worker. The other woman wore a tired expression and carried a thick file. We need to talk. Marcus let them in, positioning himself between them and the girls. 6 foster homes in 12 months, Wilson said without preamble, opening her file. The Petersons were supposed to be different. Wealthy area, good schools, stable environment. Stable. Marcus's voice hardened. Have you seen their bruises? We're investigating, Martinez cut in. But there are procedures. To hell with procedures. Marcus kept his voice low, conscious of the girls watching. You know what happens in homes like that. The bruises that don't show. The fear that never leaves. Wilson stuttered him. You've requested emergency foster placement. Yes, it's unusual. Single man, demanding career, no child care experience. I have resources, Marcus interrupted. I can hire help, arrange tutors, whatever they need. The board of your company is voting to remove you as CEO, Wilson said bluntly. Your financial situation could change dramatically. Marcus glanced at his phone. 5 minutes until the vote. I have personal wealth outside the company, he said. The girls will never lack for anything. Material comfort isn't everything, Wilson replied. They need stability, attention, emotional support. A small voice interrupted. Can we stay? They turned. Sarah stood in the living room, Sophia beside her. Please, Sophia added. He's nice. He doesn't yell or hit. And he lets us stay together, Sarah said. Wilson's expression softened. Girls, adult decisions are complicated. No, Marcus said quietly. They are not. Not when children's safety is involved. His phone buzzed. The board vote was starting. Mr. Bennett, Martinez said, "Your company will survive or it won't." Marcus turned to Wilson. "I'm not sending them back into the system. Not to another Peterson. Give me a chance to help them." Wilson looked at the twins, then back at her file. There would be conditions. Home inspections. Parenting classes. Regular check-ins. Whatever it takes. Another buzz. The voting had begun. "Temporary placement," Wilson said finally. 2 weeks, while we investigate the Petersons. After that, we'll talk about permanent options," Marcus finished. His phone lit up with message after message. The board votes were being tallied. Marcus turned the phone off. "Can we have pizza now?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus smiled. "Any toppings you want?" Wilson and Martinez exchanged glances. "We'll be checking in regularly," Wilson warned. "Good," Marcus said. "The girls need to know someone's watching out for them this time." After they left, Marcus ordered 3 pizzas, one with every topping the twins could think of. As they ate, sitting on cushions on the floor, his emergency phone line rang. Jenny's voice was hollow. The vote passed. "Whitmore's been named interim CEO. Send me the paperwork tomorrow," Marcus said, watching the twins argue playfully over the last slice of pepperoni. "I have more important things to handle tonight." He hung up before she could respond. "Is everything okay?" Sophia asked. Marcus smiled. "Everything's perfect. Now, who's ready for ice cream?" Their eyes lit up. For the first time, their smiles reached their eyes. His empire might be crumbling, but Marcus had never felt more certain of any decision in his life. Morning light filtered through the penthouse windows, finding Marcus asleep on his leather couch. He'd given the girls his bed, sleeping within earshot in case they needed anything. His neck cracked as he sat up, designer suit wrinkled from sleeping in it. A quiet whimper made him freeze. It came from his bedroom. Marcus crossed the living room in seconds, easing the door open. Sarah thrashed in her sleep, tangled in silk sheets. Sophia sat beside her, trying to wake her sister. "No, please," Sarah mumbled. "We'll be good." "Sarah," Marcus called softly. "You're safe. It's just a dream." Her eyes snapped open, wild with panic. She scrambled backward until she hit the headboard. "It's okay," Sophia said, grabbing her sister's hand. "Remember? We're with Mr. Marcus now." Sarah's breathing slowed. She looked around the room, recognition dawning. "Bad dream?" Marcus asked, keeping his distance. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Mr. Peterson was... He can't hurt you anymore," Marcus said firmly. "Either of you." His phone buzzed. He'd turn it back on to check messages while the girls slept. 28 new emails, all marked urgent. "Are you hungry?" he asked, ignoring the notifications. "I can make breakfast." The girls exchanged glances. "You can cook?" Sophia asked. Marcus smiled. "Well, I can try. How hard can eggs be?" 10 minutes later, smoke filled the kitchen. Marcus stared at the blackened mess in the pan while the twins giggled from the breakfast bar. "Maybe we should order something," he admitted, scraping charred eggs into the trash. A knock at the door silenced the laughter. The girls tensed immediately. Marcus checked his phone's security feed. Jenny stood in the hallway, clutching a stack of papers. "Stay here," he told the twins. "It's just my assistant." He opened the door. Jenny burst in, talking before he could speak. "Marcus, the board's filing injunctions. Legal needs signatures immediately. PR wants a statement about your absence. The stock's down 30%. Whitmore's already moving into your office." She stopped, finally noticing the twins watching from the kitchen. "Jenny," Marcus said calmly, "meet Sophia and Sarah." Jenny's mouth opened and closed several times. "These are the family emergency." Marcus nodded. "Girls, this is Jenny. She helps me at work." "Helped," Jenny corrected. "Past tense. Since you're no longer CEO." The twins' eyes widened. "You lost your job?" Sarah asked quietly. "By choice," Marcus said. "Some things are more important." Jenny thrust the papers at him. "The board wants these signed by noon. And you need to make a public statement." Marcus glanced at the documents, then at the smoky kitchen. "The girls need breakfast first." "Marcus," Jenny. His voice hardened. "The girls need breakfast." She stared at him, then at the twins, then at the burnt pan in the sink. Something in her expression shifted. "There's a diner 2 blocks away," she said finally. They make good pancakes. Can we go? Sophia asked. Please. Marcus checked his watch. We need to buy you some clothes first. And school supplies. School? Both girls tensed. Not today, Marcus assured them. But soon. Once things settle. Jenny cleared her throat. The papers. We'll wait, Marcus finished. The board already voted me out. What's their rush? The shareholders can wait too. Marcus grabbed his keys. Girls, get your shoes. Jenny, want to join us for breakfast? Jenny looked at her phone, then at the stack of papers, then at the hopeful faces of the twins. I could eat, she said finally. At the diner, Marcus watched the girls demolish plates of pancakes while Jenny typed furiously on her phone. The media's asking questions, she reported. Someone leaked about the emergency foster placement. Let them ask. Marcus. Jenny lowered her phone. This could get ugly. Whitmore will use it against you. How? Marcus challenged. By revealing I chose helping abused children over corporate profits. By painting you as unstable, impulsive, unfit to lead. Mr. Marcus. Sophia's voice interrupted. Can I have more orange juice? Of course. He signaled the waitress. Jenny watched him interact with the girls, her expression thoughtful. You're really doing this? Yes. Giving up everything you built. Marcus watched Sarah carefully cut her pancakes into tiny pieces, just like her sister did. They moved in sync, a unit forged by shared trauma and survival. I'm not giving up anything, he said quietly. I'm finally doing something that matters. His phone buzzed. Whitmore's name flashed on the screen. Delete. The board meeting starts in an hour, Jenny said. Let it start without me. Marcus turned to the twins. Who wants to go shopping? Their eyes lit up, then dimmed. We don't have any money, Sarah said. I do, Marcus said. And everything I have is now for taking care of you too. Jenny's phone chimed. Stock's down another 5%. Good time to buy, Marcus said. He stood, helping the girls with their jackets. Coming, Jenny. She looked at her phone, then at the twins' hopeful faces. Someone needs to help you pick out clothes. You'll probably try to buy them tiny business suits. The girls giggled. For the first time, the sound was unreserved, genuine. At the department store, Marcus learned several things quickly. 1. 7-year-old girls had very definite opinions about clothes. 2. Those opinions changed approximately every 30 seconds. 3. Everything had to be identical, but in different colors. 4. His corporate negotiation skills meant nothing when faced with twin pouts. But why can't we get the light-up shoes? Sophia asked, pointing at sparkly sneakers. Because you already chose the purple ones, Marcus said. But Sarah's getting blue ones. Jenny stepped in. How about we get both? For special occasions. The twins beamed. Marcus shot Jenny a grateful look. His phone buzzed again. Email from legal. Final warning. Documents must be signed by noon. Delete. They left the store with bags of clothes, shoes, and school supplies. The girls wore new outfits, tags removed and old clothes discarded. Feel better? Marcus asked as they walked back to the penthouse. They nodded, swinging their shopping bags. Mr. Marcus, Sarah asked suddenly, are we really staying with you? If you want to, even though you lost your job because of us. Marcus stopped walking, kneeling to their level. Listen to me, both of you. I didn't lose my job because of you. I chose you instead of a job. There's a difference. But why? Sophia whispered. Marcus thought about his own childhood, about foster homes and broken promises and adults who looked the other way. Because someone should have done the same for me, he said simply. Now, who wants to help me turn my home office into a bedroom? Their faces lit up. Even Jenny smiled. Back at the penthouse, they found Wilson waiting. Home inspection, she said, holding up a clipboard. And we need to discuss school enrollment. The twins tensed. Marcus stepped slightly in front of them. Give us an hour to settle in, he said. We just went shopping. Wilson looked at the bags, at the girls and their new clothes, at Jenny still carrying extra packages. 1 hour, she agreed. But Mr. Bennett? The media's outside the building. Marcus's jaw tightened. Let them wait. He ushered the girls inside, Jenny following with the bags. What's media? Sarah asked. People who want to tell our story, Marcus explained. Will they make us go back? Sophia's voice shook. Never. Marcus's tone left no room for doubt. Now? Who wants to pick their bed color? As the twins debated purple versus blue, Jenny touched Marcus's arm. The noon deadline passed, she said quietly. The board's moving forward with legal action. Marcus watched the girls examine paint samples, heads together, completely absorbed in their task. Let them, he said. I've got lawyers too. And the media can wait until the girls feel safe. Marcus grabbed a paint roller. Now, want to help us redecorate? Jenny looked at her phone one last time, then put it away. Purple, she said decisively. Definitely purple. The twins cheered. Marcus smiled. Sometimes losing everything meant gaining something better. The conference room on the 60th floor felt different from this side of the table. Marcus sat alone, facing the board of directors. Behind him, through floor-to-ceiling windows, dark clouds gathered over the city. This tantrum has gone on long enough, Whitmore said, standing at the head of the table where Marcus used to sit. Sign the resignation papers, take the severance package, and we can all move on. Marcus glanced at his phone. The twins were with Jenny, painting their new room. Sarah had just sent a photo. Purple splotches covered both girls' overalls. No, Marcus said simply, sliding the papers back. No. Whitmore's face reddened. You abandoned your post, missed critical votes, ignored market crashes. To help two children escape abuse. Marcus kept his voice level. Feel free to tell the media that's why you're forcing me out. Murmurs around the table. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Speaking of media, Whitmore continued. Your little publicity stunt is damaging shareholder confidence. The stock's down 40%. 52, another board member corrected quietly. Buying opportunity, Marcus said. He stood up. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a home inspection to prepare for. Sit down. Whitmore slammed his hand on the table. You built this company from nothing. Are you really throwing it away for two random foster kids? Marcus's hands clenched. Those random kids have names. Sophia and Sarah. They're 7 years old. Their last foster father beat them with a belt. Silence fell across the room. While you were all calling emergency meetings about stock prices, Marcus continued, I was helping them clean and bandage bruises. While you were drafting resignation papers, I was teaching them it's okay to eat until they are full because no one will lock up the kitchen at night. Marcus, our older board member, spoke softly. We understand you want to help, but do you? Marcus cut in. Understand? Have you ever seen a child flinch when you move too fast? Watch them hide food in their pockets because they are afraid it might be their last meal. His phone buzzed. Another photo from Jenny. The twins had managed to get paint in her hair too. I'm not signing anything, Marcus said. Fire me if you want. Sue me. But I'm done here. Security will escort you out, Whitmore snapped. Marcus laughed. The security team I hired? Who've worked for me for 10 years. Good luck with that. He walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Whitmore, I just bought another 1,000,000 shares. Might want to warn your press team. The elevator ride down was silent. In the lobby, reporters crowded behind velvet ropes. Mr. Bennett, is it true you're adopting twin girls? What about the hostile takeover? Are you really giving up your company? Marcus ignored them all, sliding into his waiting car. Home, he told the driver. His phone rang. Jenny. How'd it go? She asked. In the background, he heard giggling and what sounded like furniture being moved. About as expected, he said. How are the girls? Covered in paint. And hungry. Again. Marcus smiled. Order lunch. I'll be there in 10. The penthouse smelled of paint and pizza when he arrived. The twins ran to greet him, purple-stained overalls and all. Mr. Marcus, come see our room. They dragged him down the hall. His former home office had transformed. Purple walls, 2 new beds, desks, and, is that a window seat? He asked. Jenny helped us build it, Sophia said proudly. For reading. You like reading? Both girls nodded enthusiastically. The Petersons didn't let us have books, Sarah explained. Said we'd just ruin them. Marcus's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, the intercom buzzed. Mr. Bennett. The doorman's voice crackled. Ms. Wilson and another woman are here for the inspection. The twins tensed. Marcus squeezed their hands. Remember what I promised? No one's taking you anywhere. Jenny appeared in the doorway, pizza sauce on her cheek. I'll clean up in here. You handle the inspection. Wilson entered with a younger woman who introduced herself as Dr. Chen, child psychologist. Individual evaluations first, Wilson said. Standard procedure. The twins gripped each other's hands. Together, Marcus said firmly. Or not at all? Wilson opened her mouth to argue, but Dr. Chen touched her arm. Together is fine, the doctor said. Let's sit in the living room. Marcus started to follow, but Wilson stopped him. Private consultation, she said. We need to assess them without your influence. The girls looked at him, panic in their eyes. 5 minutes, he told them. I'll be right in the kitchen with Jenny. You can see me the whole time. They nodded reluctantly. In the kitchen, Jenny showed him her phone. Media's going crazy. Your stock purchase made headlines. Good. Marcus. She lowered her voice. You spent almost your entire liquid assets on those shares. Worth it. He watched the twins talking to Dr. Chen. They sat close together, but their posture was more relaxed than yesterday. How are they really doing? Better. They helped make the beds, organize their new clothes. Sarah even smiled at the doorman. And the nightmares? 2 more last night. But they are letting me help now, not just each other. Marcus nodded. Progress. Wilson approached with her clipboard. We need to discuss schooling options. Private tutors for now, Marcus said. Until they are ready. They need structure, socialization. They need to feel safe first. Marcus's tone left no room for argument. I have the resources. Let them heal before throwing them into a classroom. Wilson made notes. And your work situation is handled, Mr. Bennett. Wilson lowered her clipboard. I have to consider stability. If you lose your company, your assets, I have enough set aside to take care of them for 3 lifetimes, Marcus interrupted. And I'd live in a 1-room apartment if that's what it took to keep them safe. Dr. Chen joined them, smiling slightly. The girls are remarkably resilient, she said. And they trust you, Mr. Bennett. That's rare, given their history. But, Marcus sensed it coming. But they are deeply traumatized. The abuse was extensive. They'll need therapy, patience, understanding. They'll have it, Marcus said. All of it, whatever they need. His phone buzzed. Breaking news alert. Bennett investment stock hits 5-year low amid leadership crisis. Delete. Wilson reviewed her notes. We'll need weekly check-ins. Therapy sessions. Progress reports. A crash from the living room cut her off. Marcus ran in. A glass of water had slipped from Sarah's hand. She stood frozen, staring at the shards. I'm sorry, she whispered. Please don't send us back. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, lifting her away from the glass. Sophia pressed against his side. No one's going anywhere, he said firmly. Remember? Accidents happen. Sarah buried her face in his shoulder. Sophia wrapped her arms around his waist. Wilson and Dr. Chen watched the scene unfold. Weekly check-ins, Wilson said finally. But the placement can continue. The twins tightened their grip on Marcus. After Wilson and Dr. Chen left, Jenny ordered more pizza. The board's calling an emergency press conference, she reported. Let them. Marcus watched the twins arrange pepperoni into smiley faces. We have more important things to do. Like what? Sarah looked up. Can we finish painting the ceiling stars? Please, Sophia added. Jenny said you'd help with the ladder. Marcus looked at his phone one last time. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of emails. He turned it off. Stars first, he said. Everything else can wait. The girls cheered. Even Jenny smiled. Outside, the city buzzed with corporate drama and media speculation. Inside, in a half-painted room that smelled of pizza and possibility, none of it mattered. Marcus had finally found something worth more than an empire. Marcus adjusted his tie in the elevator mirror, the familiar weight of his best suit feeling strange after days in paint-stained casual clothes. The board had called for a shareholders' meeting. Time to fight back. His phone buzzed. Jenny sending the morning update from his penthouse. Girls had breakfast. No nightmares last night. Sarah asked when you'll be home. A second message followed with a photo. The twins at the breakfast table, matching purple headbands in their hair, working on the school books the tutor had brought yesterday. Marcus smiled, then straightened his expression as the elevator doors opened. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Bennett, are you prepared to lose your company? What about the foster children? Is this a publicity stunt? He pushed through them into the building's main conference room. Every seat was filled, board members, major shareholders, media. Whitmore stood at the podium, already speaking. Irresponsible behavior has cost shareholders millions. This company needs stable leadership. Stable leadership. Marcus's voice cut through the room. Let's talk about stability. Heads turned. Cameras swiveled. In 15 years, Marcus continued, walking to the front, I built this company from a startup to a Fortune 500. Stock price increased 2,000%. Zero debt. Billions in cash reserves. He reached the podium. Whitmore stepped back, face reddening. But last week, Marcus said, I found two little girls huddled in the rain. Bruised. Terrified. And I had a choice. The room fell silent. I could ignore them, like their foster parents ignored the abuse. Like the system ignored their pain. Like this board wants to ignore anything that doesn't affect quarterly profits. His phone vibrated. Jenny again. Tutor says girls are reading above grade level. They are smart. Marcus. He smiled slightly, then faced the crowd. Or I could help. Could show them that not every adult will hurt them. That it's okay to feel safe. To eat when they are hungry. To sleep without fear. This is a business meeting, Whitmore interrupted. Not a charity event. You're right, Marcus said. So let's talk business. He pulled up graphs on the screen behind him. Our stock is down 52%. Seems bad. Until you look closer. He pointed to the charts. Every major indicator shows we're undervalued. P/E ratio at historic lows. Book value twice the current price. Murmurs in the crowd. Investors sat straighter. Someone's been shorting our stock, Marcus continued. Driving the price down artificially. Creating panic. He turned to Whitmore. Wonder who that could be. Whitmore's face went from red to white. I bought 2 million shares yesterday, Marcus said. Another million this morning. Because I believe in this company's future. Even if some people are trying to steal it. His phone buzzed again. Jenny. Sophia wrote her name for the first time without copying Sarah. They both cried happy tears. Marcus's voice softened. But if you force me to choose between this company and those girls, I choose them. Every time. He clicked to the next slide. Gasps filled the room. SEC investigation documents, he explained. Showing suspicious trading patterns. Short positions opened by shell companies. Companies, coincidentally, registered to Richard Whitmore's brother-in-law. Whitmore lunged for the podium. This is slander. This is evidence, Marcus corrected. Currently being reviewed by federal investigators. Camera shutters clicked rapidly. Reporters typed furiously on phones. So yes, Marcus continued, I missed some meetings. Ignored some calls. Because I was helping two traumatized children learn to trust again. To smile again. To feel like they deserve love. His phone. Sarah asked if she can call you daddy someday. Marcus gripped the podium harder. Fire me if you want, he told the board. But know this, I'm keeping my shares. All of them. And I'll fight any decision that hurts this company's future. The room erupted in questions. Marcus held up his hand. One more thing. He clicked to the final slide, security camera footage from the gas station. This is where I found them. Watch it. Then tell me what you would have done. The video played. Two small figures huddled in the rain. Bruises visible on tiny arms. Silence fell. Meeting adjourned, Marcus said quietly. I have somewhere more important to be. He walked out, ignoring the chaos behind him. His phone rang. Jenny. They killed the hostile takeover, she said excitedly. Stock's up 12% already. Whitmore's being escorted out by security. The board wants to meet. Later, Marcus cut in. How are the girls? Missing you. Sarah's been watching the door. I'm on my way. He smiled. Did they eat lunch? Twice. These girls can eat. Good. Order more groceries. And Jenny? Thank you. For everything. Just get home, she said softly. They need you. The drive home felt longer than usual. In the elevator, Marcus loosened his tie again. The penthouse door opened before he could reach for it. Two small bodies slammed into him. You're back. We did school. Jenny let us order pizza. I wrote my whole name. Did you see my picture? Are you staying home now? Marcus hugged them both, briefcase forgotten on the floor. I'm staying, he said, for as long as you want me. Sarah looked up at him. Forever. Forever, he promised, even though you had to fight for your company. Sophia asked. Marcus touched their matching purple headbands. The company doesn't matter. You two do. But you built it, Sarah said. Jenny told us. I can build other things. He smiled. Like a family. The twins hugged him tighter. His phone buzzed one last time. Message from the board. Emergency session cancelled. Keeping you as CEO. Please call to discuss terms. Marcus turned the phone off. Who wants ice cream? He asked. Two hands shot up. Before dinner? Sophia asked uncertainly. Sometimes, Marcus said. Rules can be broken. Sarah grinned. Can we eat it in our new window seat? And read stories. Sophia added. Anything you want. They ran to their room, chattering excitedly. Jenny appeared from the kitchen, smiling. The company, she asked. Will be fine. Marcus watched the twins settling into their window seat. But right now, I have a date with 2 ice cream sundaes and some bedtime stories. They waited all day for you, Jenny said softly. Marcus nodded. No more waiting. Not for them. He joined the twins, leaving corporate wars and stock prices behind. Some battles were worth fighting. Some weren't worth thinking about at all. Morning sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows as Marcus helped the twins with their backpacks. 2 weeks had passed. The emergency placement period was ending, and Wilson was due for their final evaluation. Ready for your first day of real school? He asked, straightening Sarah's collar. Both girls shook their heads. Can't we keep doing lessons here? Sophia pleaded. With Ms. Thompson. The tutor had been amazing, helping them catch up on months of missed education. But Wilson had been clear. They needed socialization. Remember what we practiced? Marcus knelt to their level. If anyone's mean, tell the teacher. They recited together. And if you get scared, call you right away. Sarah finished. The phone's in your backpack. They nodded, patting their matching purple bags. And you remember the most important thing. We're Bennett's now, Sophia said proudly. Even if the papers aren't done yet. Marcus smiled. The adoption paperwork was moving forward, but legal processes took time. The intercom buzzed. Car's ready, Mr. Bennett. In the elevator, the girls pressed close to his sides. The private school he'd chosen was small, expensive, and had experience with trauma survivors. Still, first days were scary. Look, he said as they reached the lobby. Someone came to wish you luck. Jenny waited by the car, holding 2 identical lunchboxes. Purple for Sarah, blue for Sophia, she said, handing them over. And I packed extra cookies. The twins hugged her legs. Over the past 2 weeks, Jenny had become family too. Ready? Marcus asked. They weren't, but they nodded anyway. The school's Gothic buildings loomed ahead. Other parents dropped off children who ran happily to friends. The twins' grips on Marcus's hands tightened. Remember, he said softly. If it's too much, one call and I'm here. Their teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, met them at the classroom door. She'd visited the penthouse twice, letting the girls get comfortable with her. Welcome, she smiled warmly. We've got special seats saved, right by the window. The twins looked at Marcus. Go on, he encouraged. I'll be back at 3 exactly. They hugged him fiercely, then walked into the classroom together. Through the window, he watched them settle at their desks, still close but not quite touching. Progress. His phone buzzed as he reached the car. Wilson. Emergency at the office, she said without preamble. Final home inspection needs to happen today. Board's called a meeting too. Marcus checked his watch. I'm picking the girls up at 3. They'll be fine. This is important. So are they. His voice hardened. 3 o'clock. Schedule around it. Silence. Then, fine. Inspection at 4. Board at 5. The office felt different now. People smiled more, worked harder. Turned out choosing children over profits had improved company morale. Stocks up again, Jenny reported, following him to his office. Whitmore's indictment made headlines. The girls? Called 10 minutes ago. They're okay. Made friends with twins in another class. Marcus smiled. Of course they had. The day passed in meetings and calls. His phone sat on his desk, volume up, just in case. At 2:45, he stood up mid-presentation. Meeting's over, he announced. School pickup. No one argued. They'd learned. The twins burst out of the classroom at exactly 3, running to him. We had art. And music. There's other twins here. Mrs. Rodriguez has a pet hamster. Can we come back tomorrow? Marcus hugged them, relief washing over him. They'd done it. Ice cream to celebrate, he suggested. Before dinner? Sophia grinned. Their private joke now. Sometimes rules can be broken, Sarah finished. Wilson and Dr. Chen waited at the penthouse. Final inspection, Wilson reminded him. Then the board meeting. Marcus nodded. Girls, show Dr. Chen your room? I bet she'd love to see your ceiling stars. They ran off excitedly, Dr. Chen following. You've made changes, Wilson noted, touring the apartment. Child-size furniture in the living room. Educational games on shelves. Family photos on walls. The twins at the park. At the zoo. Reading in their window seat. They needed a home, Marcus said simply. Not just a place to stay. Wilson made notes. School report. They went. They're going back tomorrow. Progress. The adoption paperwork is processing. My lawyers check daily. And your company, Marcus glanced at his watch, is fine. And waiting. Are we done? Wilson looked around once more. Laughter echoed from the twins' room. One last thing, she said. The Petersons' trial date is set. Marcus's hands clenched. The girls don't testify. They might have to. Over my dead body. His voice was steel. They've been through enough. Daddy. Sarah's voice came from the hallway. Both adults turned. It was the first time she'd said it. Marcus's heart stopped. Yes, sweetheart. Can we show Ms. Wilson our school art? Marcus looked at Wilson. She nodded, something softening in her expression. The twins had painted their family, 3 figures, holding hands, surrounded by purple stars. That's you, Sophia pointed. In the middle, keeping us safe, Sarah added. Wilson made her final notes. I'll submit my report tomorrow. The placement is approved for extension pending adoption completion. The twins hugged Marcus's legs. Dr. Chen emerged from their room. Remarkable progress. They are healing. Because they feel safe, Marcus said. Finally, his phone buzzed. Jenny, board's waiting. Go, Wilson said. We're done here. Marcus knelt to the twins' level. I have a quick meeting. Jenny's staying with you. Pizza for dinner. With extra cheese, they asked together. Always. The boardroom was packed. Marcus took his seat, phone on the table. Quarterly projections. Someone began. Short version, Marcus interrupted. I have hungry kids waiting. Presentations flew by. Profits up. Stock recovering. Employee satisfaction at record highs. His phone lit up. Jenny sent a photo of the twins helping make salad, matching purple aprons covered in dressing. One more thing, the board chairman said. We'd like to create a foundation. Supporting foster children, funding adoption support, fighting abuse. Marcus looked up. The Bennett Family Foundation, the chairman continued. With you and the girls as honorary chairs. For once, Marcus was speechless. We've already pledged $10 million, another board member added. Seems fitting, given recent events. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Sarah had written "Love you, Daddy" in salad dressing on the counter. Thank you, he managed. The girls, they'll be proud. They already are. Jenny's voice came from the doorway. Of their dad. Marcus smiled. Meeting adjourned. I have a family dinner to get to. No one argued. The twins were waiting at the door when he got home, salad dressing still on their aprons. Did you see our message? Sarah asked. Best message ever, he said, hugging them both. Better than board meetings? Sophia asked. Everything's better with you too. They ate pizza on the floor, telling him about their school day. Plans for tomorrow. Dreams for next week. His phone stayed off. Some meetings couldn't wait. But family dinner? That was sacred. Rain drummed against the courthouse windows. But this time, Marcus didn't flinch at the sound. 1 month had passed since that night at the gas station. Today, everything would change, officially. Ready? Jenny whispered, straightening his tie. Marcus nodded, watching the twins whisper to each other across the room. They wore matching purple dresses, their dark hair braided identically. Dr. Chen sat with them, reviewing what would happen next. The judge just wants to confirm, she was explaining. Make sure this is what you want. We want to stay with Daddy, Sarah said firmly. The word still made Marcus's heart skip. The first time she'd said it, Daddy instead of Mr. Marcus, he'd had to hide in his office to wipe his eyes. The courtroom doors opened. Wilson entered with their lawyer, carrying the final papers. They are ready, she said. The twins grabbed Marcus's hands as they walked in. The courtroom was nearly empty, just family court. No media allowed. Judge Chen, a grandmother with kind eyes, smiled at the girls. Sarah and Sophia, she read from her papers. And Mr. Marcus Bennett. We're here to make official what seems to already be true in every way that matters. The twins squeezed his hands. Girls, the judge continued, I need to ask you something very important. Is this what you want? To have Mr. Bennett as your legal father? Yes, they said together, even though he snores. Judge Chen's eyes twinkled. The twins giggled. Even then, Mr. Bennett? The judge turned to him. These girls have been through much. They'll need patience, understanding, love. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Marcus looked at the twins, at their matching smiles, their nervous excitement, their complete trust in him. They saved me, he said simply. As much as I saved them. The judge nodded, picking up her pen. By the power vested in me by the state, she began. I hereby declare the adoption of Sarah and Sophia by Marcus Bennett complete and legal. From this day forward, you are family in every way that matters, and now in the eyes of the law as well. She signed with a flourish. Congratulations, she smiled. You are now, officially, the Bennett family. The twins threw themselves at Marcus. He lifted them both, holding them close as they cried happy tears. Time for a surprise, he said once they calmed down. Remember where we first met? Their eyes widened. The gas station. Want to go back? Now that the rain's just drizzling. They nodded eagerly. The station looked smaller in daylight. Betty from the diner was there, along with Jenny, Dr. Chen, and Wilson. Even some board members had come. Why is everyone here? Sophia whispered. Because, Marcus said, this is where our family began. And I thought we should mark the spot. Jenny unveiled a small plaque on the wall. On this spot, one rainy night, 3 lost souls found each other and became a family. The Bennett Family Foundation dedicates this shelter to all children seeking safety, and all adults brave enough to help them find it. Behind the plaque, a covered seating area had been built, protection from future storms for other kids. Sarah asked softly. Marcus nodded. And their helpers. The twins hugged him tight. Speech, someone called. Marcus lifted both girls onto the new bench, standing between them. 1 month ago, he began, I was the CEO of a billion-dollar company. I had everything money could buy, and nothing that really mattered. The twins leaned against his sides. Then I saw 2 little girls, huddled in the rain. Scared but brave. Hurt but hopeful. And I had a choice. He squeezed their hands. Society tells us success means bigger profits, fancier offices, more power. But true success? It's in the moments no one sees. Teaching brave girls they are safe now. Watching them sleep without nightmares. Hearing them laugh without fear. Sarah wiped her eyes. Sophia held his hand tighter. The Bennett Family Foundation will build shelters like this across the city. Safe spaces with people ready to help. Because no child should suffer alone. No child should hide in the rain. He looked at his daughters, officially, legally, forever his daughters. These girls taught me what real wealth is. Not stock prices or corporate takeovers. Real wealth is having someone call you daddy for the first time. Watching them make friends at school. Hearing them dream about the future without fear. The twins hugged him from both sides. So yes, I gave up some things to keep them safe. And I'd do it again. 1,000 times over. Betty from the diner wiped her eyes. Even Wilson looked moved. Because sometimes, Marcus finished, the most important business decision you can make is choosing love over power. Choosing family over fortune. Choosing what's right over what's easy. He lifted both girls down. And now, he smiled, I believe I promised ice cream before dinner. Because sometimes rules can be broken, the twins said together. Everyone laughed. Later, at home, Marcus tucked them into their beds under their ceiling of painted stars. Daddy? Sarah asked sleepily. Yes, sweetheart. Are you happy you found us? Marcus touched their matching purple comforters, looked at their family photos on the walls, remembered the empty apartment it had been just 1 month ago. Happier than I've ever been, he said truthfully. Even though you had to fight the bad men at work. Sophia asked. They're not bad, Marcus corrected. Just forgot what matters most. Us? Sarah grinned. Always you? His phone buzzed, the first time all day. Message from Jenny. Stock hit record high. Board wants to expand the foundation. Also, Ice cream's running low. Marcus smiled, turning off the phone. Daddy, the twins asked together. Yes. We're happy you found us too. He kissed their foreheads. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. Why? They asked. Because every day is big now. Every day is a gift. He turned on their night light, twin purple stars casting soft shadows. The rain had stopped. Through their window seat window, stars peeked through breaking clouds. Love you, Daddy, they whispered, already half asleep. Love you too, he said softly. More than all my empires. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching his daughters drift off to sleep. No nightmares would come tonight. No fear. No pain. Just love. Just family. Just home. Outside, the city hummed with business and commerce, profits and losses, deals and trades. Inside, in a room painted purple with stars on the ceiling, none of that mattered. Marcus Bennett, former CEO of a billion-dollar company, now CEO of a family of 3, had finally found his true fortune. It was worth more than all the money in the world.